Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here on fairly short notice. It's much appreciated. I also apologize for not having been very responsive today to some of your inquiries. I try to be pretty responsive, I think most of you know, but it was a very busy day, a very challenging day, and again, I apologize for not having gotten back to you. This morning at 8:30, I met with Kevin Wilson in his office for a continuation of a discussion we've been having for a few weeks, and he and I concluded that the right outcome was for him to separate from Indiana University, and I accepted later that day, effective today, his resignation based on the philosophical differences that we have regarding the leadership of the Indiana University football program. I want to emphasize that this doesn't have anything to do with the achievements of the football team on the field. I continue to believe we're very much going in the right direction. I very much believe we have the right trajectory. And I think Kevin Wilson deserves great credit for that and for his many contributions to Indiana University football. I also want to note that these issues aren't only not about the quality of the football team, but there are no NCAA compliance issues or any such issues as part of these matters. After concluding that we needed to part ways, Coach Wilson at Indiana University, I turned my attention to who would be the best person to keep up the momentum and lead us to another level. And I want to emphasize that those were separate determinations, that the potential availability of Coach Allen did not impact the decision-making with regard to Kevin separating from IU. That decision was made separately, and if Coach Allen had not been here or had not been willing to take on this new role, then we would be in a national search. In fact, I didn't talk to Coach Allen about this until after the meeting this morning, which is part of the reason why you might understand it's been such a busy day, doing an awful lot. So I guess you guys would say that may be bearing the lead of what we're doing here, but I'm very pleased that Tom Allen has agreed to be the next permanent head coach of Indiana University football. I'm thrilled that he's doing that. 24-year coach, deep Indiana ties, very connected to the Indiana high school football community. He's seen it on the highest level. He's been part of dramatic turnarounds in the defense. Recently at Ole Miss, and also at University of South Florida, and then here at Indiana, one of the biggest turnarounds of a defense in the nation, if not the biggest. I think Tom not only is a great scheme person and so forth on defense, but he is a leader of men that I think can translate and extend beyond onto the whole program. He is demanding and has a very high standard, but is not demeaning. He cares about his players, and they care back, which I think was in full demonstration recently when he just met with the football team and was introduced as for the first time as the head football coach. So as disappointing and challenging and sad as the separation is with Coach Wilson and his resignation, I'm elated and thrilled and optimistic about the future tenure under Coach Allen. What I'm going to do, if it's okay, is go ahead and turn it over to Tom to say some words, and then I will answer as best I can every question that everybody has. But I think it would be better to give him the opportunity to address you all before we engage in the Q&A. So, Tom, welcome to Indiana University as the head football coach. We're thrilled to have you here.
Appreciate that, Mr. Glass. And just want to take this time to address everyone here. And just want to say, 46 years ago, I was born in Rensselaer, Indiana, into the home of a high school football coach and a loving family. I was raised a Hoosier. Remember watching Coach Mallory's teams play, respected the way he did it, grew to know his boys as great coaches in this country. Obviously, raised a Hoosier basketball fan, like most people in this state, especially when Steve Alford from my hometown came here and eventually led the Hoosiers to a 1987 national championship. I come before you humbly, blessed, and extremely excited, although with mixed emotions at this opportunity. I would like for my wife to stand, please. Tracy, she's here with us tonight, and our youngest daughter, Brittany. She's a sophomore at Bloomington South here in town. We also have a son that's a senior. We made the tough decision to leave him in Florida for his senior year. It was the best decision for him. Tough on mom and dad. But he plays tomorrow night in the state semifinals for the Plant Panthers. And we're going to have the opportunity to see him play for the first time tomorrow in his senior year. Also have a daughter, Hannah, who is a sophomore at Samford University in Birmingham studying biochemistry. And very proud of her and the work ethic that she has. I know I mentioned my wife, but my faith and my family are the two most important things to me. And I would not be here today without her love and unbelievable support. All the moves, some of them risky moves, leaving Ben Davis 10 years ago to get my foot in the door in college football. And she's been right by my side the whole way. I love her dearly. Appreciate everything that she's done. Also, I live my life by this principle that I'm going to work like it depends on me. I'm going to pray like it depends on God. My parents are here with me tonight. Tom and Janet Allen, will you please stand? And I learned both of those things from my parents. My dad was my high school football coach. Very special man to me. The IU administration has given me an amazing opportunity. President McRobbie, I thank you. Fred Glass, I thank you for believing in me. It's hard to believe this day has been an absolute whirlwind. Unbelievable. But I do know this. In the year that I've been here, it became very, very obvious to me of Fred's commitment to this football program, to Indiana athletics, to the facility upgrades that we've seen, the facility upgrades that we're about to see, and his passion for the student athletes at our great university. I obviously am only here because of many, many people. I think of the players of South Florida that believed and played their tails off, which gave me this opportunity here. I think of Dick Dolahan, Ben Davis, saw something in me and hired me. A legend in this state, and I owe a lot to him. I think of Chris Creighton, He's doing an amazing job at Eastern Michigan, taking them to a bowl game for the first time since 1987. He hired me at Wabash College, Crawfordsville, Indiana, right from BD. He gave me a chance to coach college ball when not many would. So I'll be indebted to him for that. Hugh Freeze gave me my first college defensive coordinator's job. He believed in me too. So much that he took me with him when he went on to Arkansas State and then on to Ole Miss. Never forget the people that believed in you. And then Willie Taggart. I never coordinated at Division I level. That was a fact. But he saw something, and he believed in me too. And then Kevin Wilson. Due to what we were able to do down there in South Florida, got a phone call from him. You know, transitions in this profession are hard under any circumstances, let alone this. My heart breaks for him. I never expected for this to happen. However, he believed in me and he gave me a charge when I came here to be the head coach of the defense, to change the culture in that side of the ball. And that's what we did. These players believed. They play with amazing passion and toughness. And they're relentless. I'm so proud of the way they competed every single week in a very difficult schedule. I wish Kevin Wilson nothing but the best. Indiana high school coaches, a special group of men. I was one for 10 years. My dad was one for a long, long time. They're the heart and soul of this great state and our program. I appreciate all that they do. I understand what they go through, the challenges that they have. Their job of taking young men and helping them figure out life. So those coaches are always welcome here at Indiana University. I hope they're here as much as I was when I was a high school coach, watching practice, talking ball, learning, growing together. I'll be very visible in this state and want to ensure that we do a tremendous job recruiting Indiana, keeping our best players home. I have a vision to create a culture of accountability, toughness, and love. I believe in positive, conviction-driven leadership and the power of belief. I challenge our defense to embrace those qualities, and I will challenge our team to do the same. Our goal as coaches is to capture the hearts and minds of our players. You do that by earning their trust, investing in their lives, caring about them way more as a person than as a player. That takes time, energy, and effort. We're going to maximize every young man's talent. We're going to push them. Because I will tell them, I will push you, but I can't pull you. Because if I have to pull you, that means you're resistant. It's our job to find young men in this country that want to be pushed, that want to be great, that want to come to this great university, get a world-class education, and play in the best conference in college football, and have a chance to be special on Saturdays. Our immediate goal is to prepare for our bowl game. We're going to keep our staff intact, get the guys around to make sure we have everything covered for this bowl game. and attack it with the energy and passion the only way I know how. We have a great staff of coaches that have worked extremely hard. I've spoken to each one of them already today. I have a lot of respect for what they do. And I just challenge each one of them. We're going to roll our sleeves up. We're going to pull together. We're going to go to work. Recruits. I was in a home at this time yesterday. Thought I was going to be in another home at this time tonight. Our whole staff, except for me, is out recruiting right now. Selling the vision of this program that I so strongly believe in. And I can't wait to get back on the road. This time as the head coach. To get with parents, the decision makers, recruit them harder than we recruit the recruits sometimes. But it's an easy sell because we're part of a great university. Get them on campus and see how beautiful this place is. Our facilities are second to none and only going to get better. I'm excited about the future of our program. Offensively, we've been one of the best in the Big Ten since 2012. My challenge to them in the bowl game is to protect the football. It's precious. Run the football. That's how you win. Score in the red zone. That's my challenge. Defensively, that ain't gonna change. We've established a standard. We're only gonna get better. Special teams must improve. I was special teams coordinator at Ole Miss for 3 years. I fully understand the importance of that phase of the game. My goal for this program is to break through in 2017. We've been close. I joked about it in my last press conference. I'm tired of getting text messages from my buddies telling me how hard we play, how close we are. Those things are true. It's time to break through. Thank you all for being here. I'm very blessed to be the head coach of the Indiana University football program. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And I'll be happy to, we'll be happy to take questions and answer them as best possible.
We have mics on each side. Please state your name and affiliation.
Bob Kravitz with WTHR in Indianapolis. Fred, to the extent that you're willing to do so, could you expand upon the philosophical differences that came to bear? And Mark Schleybaugh of ESPN had a report that several players were interviewed and there was talk about the way their injuries were handled. Can you expand upon that?
Yeah, taking the first part first, there's no smoking gun or single precipitating event that led where we are today. I think it's really a realization by myself and Kevin that we're just not on the same page about some what I view as key ways of how the program needs to be led. So we talked about those and put them in a basket to call philosophical differences. I understand there's been a lot of back and forth with former players about those sorts of things in the Twitterverse. I'll just tell you that we don't have any outstanding claims of medical issues. I have complete confidence that the medical care has been outstanding by our really terrific athletic training staff and medical staff. And I do think, I understand that the philosophical differences may be an unsatisfying meal full of empty calories, perhaps. But I think from the institution's perspective and football team's perspective and Kevin Wilson's perspective and our ability to move forward to have an agreed mutual separation based on his resignation is, highly desirable, and frankly, I'm pleased that we were able to get that accomplished today. Andy?
Fred, once again, Andy Graham from the Herald Times in Wilmington. Following up on the philosophical differences, you extended them in January, 6 years. Were some of these issues already percolating then? Did that make that decision tougher at that point? And why did you go ahead and decide to make it a 6-year extension?
I think it's fair to say that none of the philosophical differences that have really more recently presented themselves were anything particularly new. I felt like we had worked through most of those, and I very much felt that we had worked through those when we went into the discussions about an extension. I think like in a lot of relationships, there's been some give and take, and some of that in this one has played itself out publicly, but I felt very confident that going into the extension, Kevin and I were on the same page. There weren't the leadership issues that led me to my most recent concern, and that the issues we had have been successfully put behind us. More recently, it came to my attention that those differences in leadership approach were maybe back. And again, it wasn't a precipitating event, but the accumulation of realization that we weren't on the same page, and a lack of confidence by me that we could get it to stay on the same page.
Zach?
I guess just to sort of follow, sorry, Zach Osman, Indianapolis Star, just to follow up on Bob's question, was there any point where the department was seeking to speak to former athletes about any part of their Indiana University football experience? Was there current or former athletes? I mean, in specific ways, not something broader, but specific topics that you wanted to broach with current or former student athletes in the football program?
Yeah, I think it's fair to acknowledge that as a result of some of the more recent concerns, we had some outside people help us take a hard look at where we are with some concerns that have been raised. Again, I know Bob, this issue about medical has come out, and part of the reason I can speak so confidently that I don't believe we have any medical issues. In fact, our medical care has been robust and appropriate, is because the external group found that to be the case.
Greg, go ahead.
Hi, Fred. Greg Doyle with Indy Star. Short ball guy, second row. Did your agreement with Kevin, the separation agreement, did it involve any kind of confidentiality about why you really can't give us any more details, A? And B, did you, is he gone for, I don't know, since he's not fired, maybe for cause is not the right word, but how much do you owe him, if any, on his contract?
Right. Well, the basis for the separation is Kevin's resignation. And I appreciate his recognition that that's the best way, I think, to approach the separation. I mean, again, I met with him at 8:30 this morning, and I think it's a testament to his commitment to Indiana University and Indiana University football going forward that he approached this in that way. To answer your specific question, we hadn't agreed, as part of the agreement, we agreed that we would pay him 1 year's base salary, which is $542,000, payable as if he were here and employed over the course of the next year. So it's not a lump sum payment. It's as if he was here on the payroll at the $542,000 rate. That does not, I think significantly, that does not include the requirement that he mitigate and set off that salary. So for the uninitiated here, if we had fired him without cause, for example, he would be entitled to $542,000 every year for the next 5 years. But if he got another job, that money from his new job would set off to dollar for dollar reduce our requirement to him. So significantly, this 1 year of $542,000 doesn't have that set off. So if he were employed in a new position, say in excess of that, then this is money he'll keep as opposed to under the agreement for without cause he wouldn't. I think that's significant because I think Kevin has a lot to offer, and he's done some very good things here, and my expectation is that he'll be probably gobbled up by somebody that is interested in someone with his skill set, which is very significant. And I've got no reason to say that because if he was under a without cause and I really wanted to get another job so they'd be paying him instead of me, then what I just said might be suspect, but we're paying him that 1 year regardless of whether he gets another job. So I do think Kevin made a lot of really great contributions here. I think this is a better job for him having been here. I think he will do well as he goes forward. I don't think there's any reason why he couldn't. As things tend to happen sometimes, this thing ran its course. And again, not a smoking gun, not a precipitating event, but a point in time where the realization was that I just don't think he and I were on the same page.
Got Pete, front right.
Hey, Fred, Pete Pedrinho, Fort Wayne Sentinel. Can you talk about the terms of Tom's new agreement now in terms of years, salary, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're, as you might imagine, since the first time he and I talked about it was about 10 o'clock this morning, we don't have all the details worked out, but it'll be a 6-year contract. It'll be at a competitive pay level in the Big Ten. We're not here to not be competitive in that regard. Once the contract is final, we'll make that public. But it'd be premature now because we don't have all the contractual terms finalized.
Got Jeff right here.
Jeff Rabb Johnson, Phoenix.com. What are the philosophical differences? And when you had outside counsel have conversations with former athletes, did those athletes make any claims of improper decisions by Kevin Wilson related to trainer's advice or medical advice?
First of all, again, the philosophical differences is a basket into which we've placed really our sort of disagreements on a variety of issues, which I would characterize as related to leadership. Certainly not related to football, because even if I had the ability to be an in-depth analyst, which I don't, I don't talk about why'd you go for it or not go for it or all that stuff. So I should emphasize it's not about the football part, because I don't know anything about that really. It's about the leadership part, which I'd like to think I do know something about that. And I'm not going to get into the details and say, yeah, that, not that, and I get it that it's probably not particularly satisfactory to you, but that's where we are, and that's part of having come to an agreement to move on. The review was internal. It wasn't with former players. It was primarily with current players, staff, and others. And again, I would emphasize that a major conclusion of that report was that medical care was not compromised in the program at all.
Ken.
Ken Bykoff, Peach.com. Tom, with the assistant coaches, is there a plan for them going forward, beyond the bowl, or do you plan on keeping the staff intact?
Yeah, I spoke with all of them this evening, like I mentioned before, and told them the plan right now is to be able to keep our staff intact through the bowl game, and then we will evaluate everything from top to bottom in our program to ensure that we are putting the best product on the field and the best coaching staff together that allows us to be great on Saturdays.
Matt.
Matt Weaver, Pigs.com. Coach, obviously you've been the D coordinator, now you're the head guy. Going forward, the bowl game and after, will you still kind of be the coordinator, or will you plan on trying to promote on the staff? And then obviously you have an open position position on the staff? Is maybe a GA or somebody going to take over a role to help you out into the bowl game and then maybe going forward after that?
Yes, we will be internally filling that position for the bowl game, for sure on the offensive side of the ball. And then the plan right now is for me to stay in my role as defensive coordinator. That is my strength. That is what the area that I know, and really want to maximize my strengths as the head coach. And obviously, I'm going to be leading our staff. We have a tremendous defensive staff here at Indiana, and those guys, their role will increase as my responsibilities grow. But I fully expect our defensive group to stay intact and for me to be leading them.
Mike?
Fred, Mike Merrick, Associated Press. Real quick, but just to clarify, initially you said that an outside group had conducted the review, and a few minutes ago you said that it was an internal review. Can you just clarify as to who actually conducted the review?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I probably created confusion there. It was an outside law firm conducting the review here internally, the athletic department / football program.
Brian Bennett?
Fred, Brian Bennett, ESPN.com. Me too.
Sorry I didn't call you back.
It's okay. That's all right. Can you give us some sort of timeline as to when this happened? You said there wasn't a triggering event, but there was an outside review. When did this start to bubble up? When did you become aware that maybe these philosophical differences were apparent?
Yeah, toward early November, kind of came to my attention that the things that I thought had really been put behind us were bubbling up again and again. Not a smoking gun, not a precipitating event, but just a concern that at least things that need to be approached the way I wanted them to be approached weren't being approached that way. And so that's when we, took a closer look at that and talked to Kevin about it. This morning wasn't the first time he and I talked about it in the latest go around. And kind of work through that. We're confident that there were no issue. Student athletes weren't being compromised in any way, which gave us some time to talk about it, work through it, and Kevin was very open and accessible and honest. And I think he and I just concluded that it'd been a pretty good run. I think some tremendous progress had been made. We talk about back-to-back bowl games and so forth and so on. We want to get further than that, but when you're trying to turn around Indiana University football, I believe a lot of progress was being made. Having said that, I think he and I concluded that we weren't on the same page on some things, and that's not necessarily to say who's right, but as the athletic director, that's a judgment I have to make. And I'm an IU guy. I grew up in Indiana. I went to school at Indiana. My mom went to school in Indiana. My kids went to school in Indiana. I have a senior here at Indiana, and my focus is Indiana. So what might be okay at other places, what might be okay in an industry, isn't necessarily okay here. And that doesn't make me right or wrong, but I can tell you that I came at this earnestly and with the best interest of Indiana University at heart, and I'll tell you that I'm proud to be part of an institution that puts doing what it thinks is the right thing ahead of competitive success, and I think we've had competitive success the last couple of years in football.
Zach Oscar, sorry again, Fred, I don't mean this to sound blunt, I just can't think of a way to ask it. But
I can take it.
You've talked about, I guess, the phrase you've used is leadership sort of issues between you and Kevin, but you've also talked about an external review. I mean, if it's kind of a sort of a binary thing between you and Kevin, why did you feel the need to have some sort of external review of the situation?
Well, I'm not an expert on notwithstanding, I don't want to break it to you too hard, but I'm not an expert on everything. So I believe in getting people to help you, think through things and analyze things. And I do think in my view, the core of what we're talking about really boiled down to leadership and how you approach being a leader. And I think, Kevin and I have some honest disagreements about how you go about that. And again, I'm not saying, I'm right and he's wrong. I'm saying I have to decide. And so when we talked about, again, not a precipitating event or a smoking gun, but the accumulation of us having a divergent view on matters connected with leadership, I think we concluded maturely and appropriately that it's just time to go our separate ways. Again, I appreciate his contributions. I want to give him his due. I think he's made a lot of very significant contributions to our football program, and I earnestly wish him well.
Eric, back right.
Yeah, Eric Crawford from WDRB, right back here. I'm just going back to the timing real quick. I wonder if there was any discussion of Coach Wilson finishing even the bowl game and the season entirely, and how, maybe even if you knew when you got up this morning that you'd be introducing a new football coach tonight, if it was that sudden, or if you suspected it, or how just today's timing came about.
Right. The timing's really independent of the football schedule. It was kind of gathering where we were and talking it through with him and all that. I think it was fortunate that the natural evolution of the conversation enabled us to get through the regular season. That wasn't really the goal, but given that we didn't think there were any, anybody was at risk or anything like that, we had some flexibility to, I think, do this the right way, take our time, be sober. Let's really talk about, where we are. But once I concluded that I thought, a parting of the ways made sense, then I don't think you wait. I think you move out. And that's what I did. I woke up this morning knowing what I was going to say to Kevin at 8:30. I didn't know what Tom Allen was going to say to me at 10. And I didn't sleep very well last night. But I was very pleased that Tom, who I think was very appreciative of what Kevin did for him to bring him here, and I think sort of a reluctant warrior in terms of wanting to come in this way, but it's a little bit of the nature of the business. And I was glad we were able to talk through that, and in fairly short order, come to an agreement. I was glad that when I went down and talked to the football teams, I wanted them to hear that from me. That we were able to, in addition to sharing the hard news for them about Kevin, and I encouraged them to be loyal to Kevin. We came here with Kevin, and to grieve, and it's not disloyal to Indiana for them to be loyal to Kevin. I get all that, and I tried to affirm those appropriate feelings. But I was glad I was able to introduce the next person, and also that next person was someone known to them and highly respected by them. So this is a tough day and tough circumstances, but I think because of the maturity of Kevin Wilson and Tom Allen and other people involved in this process, it's probably gone as well as it could. Jeff?
I just wanted to, Jeff Rabjohns, Peaks.com. Obviously, you made the decision you wanted Tom Allen to be your head coach instead of doing a national search. Kind of take us through your thought process on what you saw in Tom that made you make that decision.
Right. Well, first of all, I try to be very disciplined to separate those issues. The decision regarding Kevin need to be made independent of what next, because you can't make the wrong decision because you're afraid of who's next, and you can't make a decision because you're eager about who's next. So I think I was disciplined to make that decision independently, and Kevin and I had a good conversation about that and reached that. And I didn't talk to Tom until after I talked to Kevin because I thought that was the most appropriate thing and that was a little scary. But, sometimes the best person is the person in your midst. It's like good to great. It's not necessarily the flashy guy over here at this company. It's the person in the place next to you. I'm sort of mindful of Butler hiring Brad Stevens. Right now that's a no-brainer. But here's a guy who was, a volunteer assistant, unpaid. And when Barry Collier said Brad Stevens, everybody said, who? But Barry Collier had the fortitude to kind of pluck somebody out of obscurity because he had seen him every day and knew that quality, which has been confirmed in a variety of ways. So, not to suggest that Tom was like an unpaid videographer or something, but may not have been the first person for people maybe nationally to think of, but he was for me because I helped recruit him and Kevin found him and wanted to be the defensive coordinator. I walked many laps around my dining room table talking to Tom about our commitment to football and what we were looking for, and I got to know him as a man then. I've seen him work. I've seen the way the kids react to him. Yeah, it's about scheme and all that, but it's really about relationships. He is a leader of men, which I think will transcend beyond the defense across this team. And maybe the missing link, maybe the secret sauce to get us from being close to maybe getting over the hump a little more often. So I was very, very impressed with him and his role. And as I thought about what we wanted to do next, he is the number one person that I would want to do this role. And the fact that he was already here is a bonus. The fact that because I've often said to you and a lot of other people in here, I think the two keys to getting Indiana football where we want it to be are making investments and continuity. And we've been making investments. We're going to make more investments. We're getting ready to spend $53 million in our football stadium. And Tom has my commitment to continue to make the investments he thinks are prudent to get the kind of people and facilities we need. And then secondly, continuity. And we can take a little step back on that with Kevin, but I think we step right in with Tom and the ability to probably maintain most of the staff and the kids to know who they're dealing with, I think is a big plus too.
Greg on the left.
Hey, Fred, I got one question for both of you, so please don't take this away from me. Fred, this weekend, Xander Diamond, I don't think this is the smoking gun, so I'm not looking for that, but Xander talked about his concussions. And Kevin's response was almost to brag that I'm going to see if he wants. I asked him if he wants to play next year anyway, and then he said, I'll probably ask him again. It came from the Meathead School of Coaching. I'm just wondering, how'd that sit with you?
I didn't really catch all that. I did think that I think Xander, who I love, I think a little flippantly said, hey, I need my brain, and I think that took on a life of its own nationally, and I don't think he particularly meant that, he certainly doesn't have any kind of medical issues or history with that as far as I know.
But Kevin's reaction to that, he's got concussions, but I want him to keep playing anyway.
Well, I didn't hear that exactly, so I'm not going to comment on that. I will say that I think Kevin is very sensitive to concussion issues. It's not a secret he's had in his own family with his son. He said that publicly, and I think Kevin would quite challenge anyone that suggests that he's not sensitive about those issues. Having said that, Kevin's kind of a shoot from the hip person, and sometimes he says things that people might interpret another way.
And then Tom, are you comfortable? You've watched it for a year. Are you comfortable with how players' health issues have been handled under the previous head coach?
I think that in our culture of athletic injuries, I defer to the trainers. That's what they've got their degrees in. They don't tell me how to run the defense, and I don't tell them how to treat injuries. And so that's my approach to that, that's my philosophy on that, and I think that that's the way you handle it.
Okay, Ken on the right.
Ken Bykoff, Peaks.com. Fred, the fact that Tom had as much success in rebuilding that defense this year, did that make it easier to come to this decision? Did it push kind of the philosophical differences that much farther down the road?
No, I think I was disciplined to focus on those issues with Kevin independent upon what's next.
Mike, front left.
Mike Miller, Wilmington Herald Times. First, two questions. What's the name of the outside firm that conducted the investigation? And second, did they find anything that, I guess, put Kevin in a situation to take such a sizable buyout situation?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on any of the conclusions or recommendations, and that's part of the reason you have somebody come in and give a no holds barred kind of analysis. And it was the Taft Law Firm, nationally recognized law firm out of their Indianapolis office.
Matt on the right.
Matt Weaver, Pigs.com again. Coach, you talked about how tough the transition is, and obviously one of the aspects of that is the guys are committed. I know you can't talk about them specifically, but have you reached out to committed guys? And as far as recruiting, where do you go from here? I mean, are there going to be visits this week? I know it's a really important time. Kind of what's your plan as far as recruiting starting this weekend and then going to signing day?
Yeah, regarding this weekend, it's going to be business as usual. There'll be no change in the schedule, and I've already had that discussion with our recruiting staff. Regarding the recruits, I have not spoken to them. It's obviously been a whirlwind of a day, but that will happen tonight. So as soon as we're done with all this, I'll be on the phone talking to our committed guys, talking to our recruits, and reassuring them of the future of our program.
Sam, front left.
Sam Coach Allen, obviously the players going through a lot right now. Who do you kind of turn to for leadership from that perspective and just make this transition as easy as it can be?
You know, I think we have you have leaders selected for a reason, and those leaders that we select, you know, Marcus Oliver and Mr. Feeney, you know, as I talked to him a few minutes ago before I came up here, you know, just remind both of them we don't need their leadership at this time. You know, we're a family, and when families hurt, then you've got to pull together. And I don't expect anything different from that. So I think the guys that lead our team have done so all season long, will continue to do so. We need them to rise up and be the young men that I know that they are.
Pete, front right.
Pete DePremio, Fort Wayne News Sentinel. Tom, I'm assuming you had no idea this was happening until like 10 o'clock this morning.
And I never talked to Fred until this morning.
When he tells you this, did you need to walk around the room? I mean, how did you like say yes? Did you have to pray? I mean, what did you do?
Quick prayers. Didn't have a lot of time. No, it was a crazy day. You know, obviously a lot of emotion, a lot of things being thrown at you. My first response was my heart broken for Kevin and his family, to be honest with you. I care about people, and it's tough. It's tough. So, but the bottom line is that once you get through that and realize you got a whole team that's counting on you to lead them and to pull together and to get a staff together. So I think that obviously a lot of emotions occurred today, and we're going to maximize the opportunities that we've been given and follow the charge of leading this team.
Zach, front left.
Zach Osterman, Indianapolis Star. I guess, I'm not sure if anybody's actually asked this, but first of all, you still intend to participate in a bowl game, I assume. Is that correct? I mean, there's no desire to turn down a bowl bid or anything like that. Sometimes the coaching changes.
No.
Notre Dame went 6-6.
Let me say to everyone in Nashville, in San Francisco, in Detroit, and Dallas, we're ready, willing, and able to move Hoosier Nation to your communities.
I'll say this too, in our team meeting today, those boys are chomping at the bit.
And I guess I wanted to ask about that team meeting. Just what was the reaction? You talk about sort of leaning on team leaders that we've sort of heard about all season. Sort of what was the mood of that meeting?
It was tough. It was tough. You know, you got young men that were recruited by Coach Wilson. He believed in them. He gave them an opportunity that for some guys, they may not have had an equal opportunity. Some guys might have had multiple choices to go to. Regardless, he and the staff that recruited him at that time believed in him. And that's a powerful thing. And you saw that emotion on our guys' faces. And it was tough. But I was real with him. I just talked to him man to man. And tried to be real, genuine, and from the heart. And told him how much I loved him. And a lot of other things that obviously will stay in that room. But obviously a very difficult situation. But at the end of the whole time together, I saw a group of guys that came together. Some leaders rose up, spoke, and challenged the group to make it about the guy beside them and to truly manifest the concept of loving each other. And that's what we're all about.
Jeff?
Jeff JeffRabJohnsonPeaks.com. Tom, for you, give us your philosophy. A successful football program looks like what? What are the key ingredients?
Yeah, I think for me, the first goal and objective is for us to graduate our players. That to me is success. Number two, I want to create a culture that allows them to develop through character, through mentoring, to become the young men that I believe that they were created to be. And number three, I believe we're going to be a football program that competes for championships. And we play in arguably the best division in all of college football. And this year, our conference is the #1 conference in the country in regards to teams that are competing for the playoffs. And we have a tremendous challenge and opportunity to be a part of that. And I embrace that. And to me, just like my experience of coaching in the SEC, when you go through that schedule and you do what you train to do and prepare to do, and the success that you have, it allows you to be with the best in the country. And that's how I feel about coaching in the Big Ten West.
Got one more. Hutch, row 3 on the left. Hutch behind you.
Terry Hutchins, CNHI Sports Indiana. One more thing on philosophy though, Fred, and that's, how does Tom's philosophy, how is that different than the philosophy differences or whatever you have in think?
That's a good way to get at it, Terry. I appreciate it. Well, obviously I'm not going to, get into the basket, the back way that I want the front way. But let me say positively about Tom, not necessarily in contrast to what Kevin brought. One of the things I think they have in common is they're very demanding. They have a very high standard. I've been out on the field, and Tom doesn't like it when it isn't right, and he lets the guys know about it. And so I don't think we're taking one step back in terms of a standard or being demanding on the kids. He certainly does it in a way that's it's not demeaning. It's not personal. Tom coaches the play, not the player. He critiques the action, not the player. Again, I'm not trying to draw distinctions, but that's remarkable. It's important to me. Bill Polian, who I'm fortunate to call a friend, told me early on that the way coaches are successful is when their kids believe, number one, they care about them, and number two, the coaches can make it better. And it's very clear to me with the defense, it hasn't really been schemed. Certainly it hasn't been personnel. We lost some pros. Arguably our personnel was as good or better last year. But I think the difference is how much they knew that Tom Allen cared about them, and knew that he had the wherewithal to make them better. So I guess I think what Tom Allen has in spades are those two critical elements of success, that the players know he cares about them, and he knows they know he can make them better.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
If there are any other questions, I'll take them. I want to answer every question. So thanks, Jeff, I appreciate that. If there's anything else, I'll take it. Thank you for coming. Sorry to get you out tonight, but wanted to get it all done today. Thank you.